All right. All right. Let's talk about
Okay.
the NAIA Emerging Artists Workshop.
Um, let's hang on a second. Let me pull up the information here.
Carol, do you know what NAIA is?
I don't, but I was just going to look it up while we were talking.
It is the National Association of Independent Artists. We are a 501c3 that helps promote artists, art shows, and does education.
NAIA dot.
Org.
NAIAartist.org.
Right. Isn't it
Artist.
hyphen artists?
No,
Just artists?
yes.
.org.
I'm working with Sarah Moore, who's the director of the Four Bridges Arts Festival, and she works with the Association for Visual Arts in Chattanooga. And they are sponsoring it, and they are bringing me in to do an all-day emerging artist workshop on September 28th. And we're going to cover all sorts of stuff for artists that are thinking about doing outdoor art festivals and artists that are just, maybe in their first year or two of doing festivals. We're not limiting, there's no limit. I mean, we're not saying you have to have done less than this many shows, or you have to have less than this number of years experience. It's open to anybody.
So I was going to ask you that because I've been doing shows for, I don't know, 8-10 years, but I'm getting out of what I did, and I'm still doing shows, but something completely new that I've never done before. So I don't know if that counts as emerging or not, but thank you for your explanation.
So it's for new artists. It's for artists that may be established and have never done outdoor art festivals. Maybe they've worked with galleries, other things. So, we're going to talk about, what it takes, tents and manners and all that kind of stuff.
Manners, nice.
Yeah, each show has their own criteria for what they call emerging.
Yes. And really what we found is there's kind of 3 different categories of emerging artists, and kind of the lowest level are the artists that are just brand new at everything. They're brand new at their art. They're brand new at everything. And then we have a group of artists that maybe they've done a few shows. They're still kind of new at their art. Maybe they've done a few shows, but really don't understand a lot about what they're doing. And that seems to be one of the bigger audiences right now. And then there's this whole other group of artists that are established artists. They know their art, they know their practice, but they have never done a festival.
How about the artists that have done shows for 40 years and still don't know what they're doing?
Oh, well, yeah. So, that's where I'll be working with Sarah to figure out exactly, and we're going to target it to which of those, she feels they have a bigger need for there. Shows are doing it for a couple reasons. One is to help local artists that may not know anything about art festivals, to get them, show them what it's like, show them what it takes, to help get new artists up to speed that may have done some or getting ready to do some, help get them up to speed so they know what they're doing, things like that.
Well, I see that you have a podcast too. That's great.
The podcast is affiliated with NAIA. It's done by Will Armstrong and Douglas Sigworth, 2 artists, and they interview other artists. And that's primarily interviews with artists that they do every couple. It varies, once a week. Sometimes it's once a week. Sometimes it's every couple, 3 weeks, depending upon how busy they are.
Well, it's still a nice avenue for people for learning for people.
It is. And the podcast, I haven't listened to it recently, but the podcasts, some of them, they talk about business. Some of them just talk about the artists and their inspiration and how they do their art. Some of them just are artists with their interesting background stories. So it's a little bit of everything.
Okay. Well, I will tune into that.
Yes, I highly recommend that.
That's my book.
We're actually going to be doing our first show this year, this weekend. And we'll see how we do with it.
Where are you going to be?
It's in upstate New York in the lower Adirondacks. It's put on by Rotary. And it is started out 15 years ago as a woodworking festival, then evolved to woodworking and fine arts. Extremely well run. And this year, George is going to be one of the featured artists because he and this other couple have been there for all 15 years. Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, and group of great people. So the weather looks like it's going to cooperate, and we'll give it a go.
Yeah, it's all about the weather this year.
Yeah. Well, right now, just in upstate New York, they're having severe storms. So hopefully they're gone by the time I get up to Rochester and you get your show.
Yeah, they had some tornadoes down toward Binghamton.
Was that today?
Last night.
Last night.
And the weather's been wild everywhere, but people in the Adirondacks come rain or shine, they bring their umbrellas and their overcoats and boots, and so, and we've had everything from perfect weather to monsoon to snow flurries, and people have still come.
Well, good shows. That's what they do. Ann Arbor does the same thing. It can be just so blustery, and most of the artists don't even show up, but the people are still out there to buy. So good for you guys. Well, I hope you have a really, really good show. What's your medium?
We do wood turning, so pepper mills, salt mills, French rolling pins, kitchenware, bowls, and some artsy fartsy stuff.
Artsy fartsy stuff.
Oh.
I just looked at our weather here and we've had about 4 or 5 days of 100 and it's dropped down to 97 today, but there must be another front going to move through because drops from 97 today to 87 tomorrow. And wow, it looks like this is Sunday and Monday of next week. The high is only in the 70s.
Holy cow. Where is that? I want to come there. This
Oh, yeah.
Wichita, Kansas, which is like, you know,
yeah.
80 degrees is cool. 88, anything below 90 is considered cool this time of year.
Right. We've had 102 here, and I love heat, and I'm done with it. So I can't wait to get to New York this weekend. Hope it's nice.
We had more rain than usual, and so It's just now drying out, so the heat's tolerable. The
Yep.
humidity was so high, it would be 75 degrees outside, and you'd walk out and just, in 2 minutes, you'd just be dripping.
Nobody likes that.
So that means I have a few day window to clean out space in my shop building, unload the van, unpack everything in the van, set up the tent, do the modifications I want to do to my electrical wiring. Need to really wash my tent probably too.
Actually, you know what? Washing it when it's 102 might not be so bad. You'd be glad to be wet. Cool. And just
Oh,
spray yourself.
It'll dry right away.
Exactly. It won't get moldy and mildewy.
Well, it seems like every time I wash it, I wind up at the very next show. I wind up under a tree or something, or it's one of those shows where you're outside and the wind's blowing and everything's covered with dust.
Mm-hmm.
But
Or
my
sap.
only 2 shows this year are on city streets, so I shouldn't have those kind of problems, hopefully. I'm not going to be under any trees, I don't think. Well, I might be. Might be at one of them.
Well, I'm doing my first show in 2 years, but that's because I've switched mediums completely. So I have to get my brain back into how to do this. How to,
So
how
what-
do I practice new art? How do I, what do I do to this new art to get it there safely? And do I remember how to set up my tent? And, well,
Well, yeah, see,
What's-
I haven't done, my last shows were last September and I didn't do anything. I haven't done anything yet this year. So it's, I'm doing a show in September, and that first show when you haven't set up for a while is always fun.
well, we usually do it in the driveway just so there's no big, so all the big arguments that happen here where nobody can hear them.
Well, I had rearranged I have a cart in my tents on, taken some stuff out to do this small setup that I have, and now I've got to go. I don't want to have to deal with taking all that apart and putting it, back together for how I do it at a regular show. So that's reason I want to get everything out and repacked. And
What's your medium?
I'm a photographer.
Photographer? Okay.
And
I'm
then
trying to be, but Larry will tell you I'm not.
I mean, we're working on it. It's a work in progress. Photographing her artwork.
My artwork, yeah.
I have a big cabinet that I put all my frame stuff is framed with glass. So I have a big rolling cabinet that goes in that I use to hold it in the van, and then I can just roll that whole cabinet into my booth, and I use that cabinet in my booth. And there's kind of this narrow spot across the top of the cabinet that was originally going to be 3 separate drawers that wound up being just a door, long, narrow door, because I'm not a good enough carpenter to actually make drawers. So it's kind of this, you get something at a show and you just kind of throw it in there. And that desperately needs to be cleaned out. Because there's things actually in there that I do use, and I want to be able to find them.
Well, I don't know even what's living in my trailer after these 2 years. I mean, who knows what I'll find when I get in there.
Yeah,
Carol,
my van has not been moved for several weeks, so I need to go start it and make sure I don't have a pack rat living in it again.
Mhm.
Carol, what are you doing now?
Hi, Teresa. I am doing sculptural relief painting. So if you're familiar with bas relief, that's the technical term, but I say sculptural relief, like sculpture on canvas for people who don't understand. But that's what I've always wanted to do. I had set up a thing in my garage 20 some years ago to try to learn how to do it on my own, and it never worked out. I put a winch on the ceiling because I thought it'd be heavy, and I built the easel and it could go up and down in my garage, and then I could never do it. So that just became storage for all of my garden pots. And then 2 years ago, I stumbled on somebody who was a teacher for doing that. And I've taken a year of classes, and now that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
I had a pack rat decide that the air intake to my van was a good place to live.
Ooh.
We have a pecan tree behind our house, and it has some kind of bug that lays their eggs when the tree flowers, and then as the pecans form, the egg is inside the pecan, and then it turns into a little worm that eats all the nut meat and then eats through the shell on the way out.
Ew.
And so we don't have pecans very often, and this was the year we had pecans, and they decided that this would be a good place to stash the pecans. I didn't know it. I literally had to vacuum out the intake manifold on my van because I pulled out of my driveway and it died, and I was able to get back in the driveway, and it took forever to figure out what was going on. But also they decided that under the hood of my van, there's the structural metal pieces that are under supports and braces that are under the sheet metal on the out body. And there were holes that they could put the pecans in. So every time I open the hood of my van, you hear this as all the pecans run to the others, move to the other end and roll down to the other end.
Wow.
And then when you close it, they all roll back to the front.
Well, I hope you've gotten that fixed.
So, yeah. And when they did it, I was trying to get ready for a show, and it was 100 degrees out. And I tell you, when it's 100 degrees out, you don't want to be trying to crawl around in your van.
Hey, Katie?
Yeah.
Hey, I've not met you before. Tell me a little bit about what you do.
I do art shows rather than art fairs, mainly because I can't deal with the tent. And right now, the only one I've been doing, because everything else has closed down that I did, is the Comic-Con.
Comic-Con,
So
okay.
I'm at the Comic-Con art show. I'll have a table and a panel there, which are spaces you set up and leave essentially. And the desk takes care of sales if you have your work up for sale. I'm also working there, so yes, I'll be involved in doing the security and sales and that kind of stuff. But it's a 5-day show, really, 4 days show, 1 day to set up.
So your background on your image there, is that what you do?
No, that's from something else, but that's a lucky kitty, so I need luck. So I'll drop everything and spill it all over the Harbor Boulevard.
So what do you do? What do you sell? What do you make?
Beadwork, beadwork and crocheted items mostly.
Oh, okay.
Let's see if I can do. Let's see, choose. This was sort of one of the things I just finished. That will be there. It's thematically appropriate. It's out of the price range, but it's a showpiece, I guess. I made a whole bunch of $10 earrings because there's a lot of younger students there that go through and look for something they can get.
Sure.
So,
I gotta figure
essentially,
I'd love to figure out how to do the background like you just did in Zoom. I know nothing about Zoom, and I'm like, hey, that's cool. You can put your art.
Oh, that was, there's a program / site called Canva.
Oh, I know.
and-
Okay.
You just, the picture was from Google. I copied it from Google and pasted it into Canva. Then stretched it to fit a Zoom background, and then I just added pictures of that's one bag, one side, two sides of the same piece.
Got it.
Just pasted that over it and said, da da da, here it is.
I like it. I like it.
I put that up to show Teresa the one, because she had asked what I was doing one couple weeks ago, I guess. But anyway. So right now I am fighting with Microsoft Office to get things finished for the art show, because since it is not you sit there and sell stuff, you have to have everything that you have listed and put in a format that the desk can input into the computer program.
So why are you fighting with Office?
Well, right now I'm trying to make labels because my label thing did weird stuff. And then it's mail merged into forms.
Actually, I
Why-
wrote an article on how to do mail merge with Microsoft Word, but I think it was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, I
Things
learned
kinda
it.
different.
It's been moved. Yeah, it's changed since then. Because I used to have it perfect, and now it does weird things. So every year I have to relearn it.
I have a little Canon desktop printer I bought for I bought it at like Walmart for some like $35. And I bought it because I think I was going to a show and I didn't have stuff printed. So I bought, and when I say I didn't have stuff printed, not my work, but like price labels and stuff like that. And so now then I have everything set up for it, and it just keeps chugging along. I fire it up and use it every couple 3 months, and it just keeps running. And I found that if I try and use a different printer, I use business cards for my price tags. So I get the
I
sheets
use
of
them at
business
hang
cards,
So.
and if I use another printer, then nothing seems to fit in the spaces and stuff moves.
Well, I don't know if I can put it up. I had hang tags made with the Vistaprint business card thing, and then I got the punch that this is an earring one, but sometimes I just do a hole for the.
You had brackets.
Yeah, I found the business cards are real nice size because I use metal frames, and
Mhm.
those have the little springs on the back. So what I can do is push the glass in just enough and slide that business card down in the corner of the frame, and it holds real nice. And they usually stay there. I always have a couple extras, and I always have a couple blank ones if I want to write something. But they stay there, and it's usually not a problem. They'll stay there for as long as I'm showing that piece or until I sell it.
Yeah,
Honey. What, burnt?
oh, I thought she was talking.
Mashed potatoes, green beans, corn.
I don't think,
Then I use a small mailing label on my stuff that's in that's not framed.
Those and
I have a label.
Hey, Oscar,
well, we have to make bid sheets for all our pieces too. I use dots to put the numbers on, but the bid sheets have to have all the information for the pieces. When you have 250 pieces, that's a lot. but
Do you put a
it's
picture of
made
the
to fit-
piece?
what?
A picture of the piece also?
No, no. It has your information and your name, your artist number, and then the piece
You're gonna have,
number.
well,
But
Oh, that was
the
Teresa.
forms are 4 to a sheet. And you have to get it so it fits, all of it in there, and your writing has to fit in those lines. When I first started, I was filling those all out by hand, just, printing out the sheets. And then that was a bit much, so now I try to do it that all the information that's the same on each piece, like my name and the artist number, and I don't know, that it's for sale, prints out, and then I have to fill in the other stuff. And when I can get it working right, I can get mail merged, put that other stuff in for my inventory list. But that's the hard part, to get that form fitting in there, 4 to a page, and having the print fit into the right spot and not go above or below the lines.
Well, basically, you pick an Avery label that has 4 on a page. And you put in the label number.
I have to have their format to it, though. It has
Template.
to have information, and then you have bidder numbers, and that all has to fit in there. And
It sounds like it takes longer to do it on the computer than it does manually.
Right.
not when you have 250 items.
You need an assistant.
I need to do it more often so I can do it automatically and not have to relearn it each year. But sometimes I'll have it fine. I find that sending it to print to PDF first and then printing off of that works better, because then you can say fit to sheet in the print thing. But printing directly from Word, it goes off, and part of either the sides or the top or the bottom get cut off because it wants to fit into the margins or something.
I'm lucky because I've done a lot of graphic design. So I have Adobe InDesign, which is a layout program. So laying out those multiples, like my little adhesive price labels print 30 up. And I have that all laid out, so it's really easy. I've done it a couple different ways. But now I have it, so I do one. I'll copy one that has my basic information and then change. It has my name on it, but then I'll just change the name of the piece and maybe the price if I need to. But then I just do, if I say I need 6, I'll start in the first column and I'll do 2. And then I'll do, if I need 3 the next one, I'll do 1, and I'll fill up that first column. And then I just copy that column and paste it over twice. Because when I print my small pieces, which is the majority of what the stickers go on, I print them 3 up, print them 3 at a time. Because they're 8 by 10, so I print basically a 24 by 10 piece of paper and then just cut it into 3.
Well, Katie, I'm sorry, we can't help you with your situation
Well,
there.
like I
I
said,
understand
it's
what,
something I need to learn every year, because there's been these upgrades. So my nice little list that tells me step 1, do this, step 2, do that. There's a change in there.
of course, they can't keep anything the same, right?
I'm sure it makes sense to somebody, but sometimes the upgrade makes things worse.
I agree.
So,
Phones are the same.
I mean, I learned on WordStar how to do stuff, and then went to Microsoft, and that was a big learning curve for me, but.
Well, I didn't
WordStar was
understand-
when I had the top of the line 256K IBM PC, with PC DOS.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
You
not
see
a-
DOS
not a-
anymore? Nobody knows what DOS is anymore.
Yeah, well, and swapping out disks between whatever.
Has anybody on the call done any collaborations with any, like, places where you would show your art? Any collaborations with designers or with, restaurants or with, anything like that? Anybody done that?
Not
Not yet.
personally.
No? Okay, I'm trying to come up with, I've got a bunch of collaborations I would like to do. I'm trying to come up with something to make it worth their while. I don't want to just say, well, I'll give you 10% of everything I sell or something, make it just about money. So I'm trying to come up with some ideas of, what's a win-win?
Well,
How
check
does it
what
help
kind of
them
wall
to
space
have
they
me?
have.
What was that, Katie?
Check what kind of wall space they have. And would your, type of art fit in that space?
Well, typically I'm doing like exhibits, so here's an example. So one that I'm working on right now is it's a very fancy place in town here. And once a quarter, they hold an Italian dinner where people spend, I forget what they pay for the tickets, $100 or $200 for the tickets. And so it's all Italian, it's 5 courses, and they have somebody who comes in to do wine to match with the courses. And since the art I do is old world, that kind of fits the theme. So I come in and I just show the art during the event so that people can get to know my art. So the benefit for the hotel in this case is that it gives them something else to offer. Plus, I know this particular hotel is very good with wanting to help artists in the community. But I'm looking at other places too and going, well, what could I bring to, I just want to meet their people to learn about my art, but what can I say? Well, here's what's in it for you. And I'm just trying to come up with some ideas.
Well, on top of the commissions, if you're doing something like,
Well, I'd like to not do commissions on all of them. It just doesn't have to be always about money, right? But anyway, I'm sorry, I interrupted. I apologize.
you're giving them a chance to change up the artwork in their venue, and bring in a fresh look, different look. I know a lot of places, used to be a big deal in the coffee shops. I don't know if it is as much anymore, but the coffee shops would basically change artwork every 4 to 6 weeks, almost monthly in some cases. And they would just bring in a different artist every month and hang their work for a month.
Yeah, they get free
As long as it-
decorations and the artists get exposure.
And they get what, Larry?
Exposure.
Oh, so the restaurant gets free artwork and we get exposure.
Yeah.
But if it's just for an exhibit, like a one night like this dinner, it's like, well, what else could I offer? What's the
Talk to your library too.
library?
Yeah. A lot of times they'll have cases and they'll sponsor some sort of local group or even individuals.
Or
I-
sometimes, I
That
mean,
you can
sometimes
pull
they'll
books
just-
from their shelves that sort of either describe the art or describe the scenery that you're painting,
a lot of libraries just have artists display their work for a period of time.
Yeah, a
you-
lot of libraries do that.
Okay,
You can
I'm
put
not, I'm
your
not thinking
card
about long-term, maybe that's the difference. To me, it's just
Well-
one night exhibit. I come in, I set up at the wine bar, we have wine, they see my work, we have a good night, and then I go home and, that's the end of it. So I'm not thinking about doing it long-term, but library would have never crossed my mind, but I like the idea because like you said, they can pull books out to learn about it. Maybe it's something that they, some kind of benefit of a class they can offer to the
Yeah,
community or
well,
something.
or can you do a demo maybe?
Kind of hard with wet plaster, but
Well, you could do something showing different stages and then maybe show,
yeah.
one of those stages.
Right?
Oh,
That's-
A lot of libraries have meeting rooms. They'll have one, at least one big meeting room, and they will turn that, basically, they will rotate the art on the walls in that meeting room.
Mhm.
And it's usually, at least the few here, that's like a monthly thing.
Okay, well, I will definitely check with the library. I would have never crossed my mind, so thank you for that idea.
Even
kind of-
the little town of 6,000 people I live near just built a new library, and they do it.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the idea.
And if you're in a bigger city that has a lot of times the library has multiple branches,
Mhm.
so they may be, they may have artwork. They'll have a different artist in every branch if they have room to display it every month.
I know they do that at our airport too. So
Yeah,
I know one of the towns near me that's a little bit bigger. It's a suburb of Wichita, Kansas. They do during the spring, summer, and fall, they do this Thursday night out, and they bring in some food trucks and they invite a couple or 3 artists to hang some work in a pavilion for the evening. And it's just they don't charge anything. You sign up in advance and you come in, put up a small display, hang your work for an evening.
like a pop-up.
Yeah, it's a one Thursday a month.
Okay.
I think they call it third Thursdays.
another
Um,
thing, check with churches, especially in your case, Italian churches.
Okay.
See if they're having a cultural fair of some sort.
Good idea.
That might fit into if they're letting outside vendors in, you know,
Okay.
not all do, but
Thought. Good thought. Hadn't come up with that.
This is really the first year that I have had what I consider a pop-up setup, because in my booth, I use cable hangers that literally hang on the frame of my trimline tent. So if I don't have my tent set up, I don't have any way to, I don't have pro panels. I can't just put something up small, but I literally built the small framework that I can now do that. So I have something that I can set up in an hour. And so this fall, as we get into Christmas, I'm going to be looking for all the little church functions and any little pop-ups. I've tried it a couple pop-ups, but the first one I did was not good. The second one was better, but sales were non-existent at both of them. But so now then I have something that I can go to, like a church bazaar. A lot of the churches have, some kind of bazaar in the fall. And so now that I have something, I can go do those.
I miss those church bazaars. When I grew up in Pennsylvania, that's what you always did. Everybody loved them. Down here, they don't do them in the South. I guess not a thing, but
they might be more private.
yeah, maybe. There is one Greek church around here that does it. That's the
Yeah,
only
they
I know
do a
of,
big
but-
thing here. the
Yeah.
Greeks. Another thing though are like ethnic cultural fairs.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a big enough Italian population there, they may have something that spans different churches rather than being just associated with one. So we have quite a few ethnic fairs here. Seems like every 2 weeks once it warms up.
Okay.
Do the local galleries do a first or final Friday?
Downtown, they used to do a first Friday. I don't know if they still do or not. We have such a problem in downtown Greensboro with homeless people that a lot of stuff downtown that used to happen hasn't been happening lately. So, but they used to do a first Friday all the time. Why?
The events I did were part of First Friday. Well, one of them was part of a First Friday. It was in an old school, and they brought in artists to do pop-ups for a First Friday.
Okay.
So there may be places that, and I know in Wichita, there's a couple places that aren't art galleries, but have a lot of wall space that, will either do something just on will do something temporarily for First Fridays, or they may actually change out the artwork. There are a couple of event venues that do, at least one event venue that I know that does that.
Okay, well, I will look into that in town too.
And we actually had, it just reopened, but there was a large, it started out as an orphanage, Masonic orphanage, but it wound up, and it was built back in the early 1900s. But it was eventually converted into a nursing home and a retirement community, and they had different buildings. And so they had hallways everywhere, but they would have different artists come in and they would hang art all throughout the buildings, in this retirement center. And I showed there a couple times. Didn't sell much, but I showed there.
Well, yeah, I'd like to collect information from people who would like to follow too. It's not all about selling. I'd like to build up my following too.
And, at that point, I missed out because I could have done more marketing as far as maybe put some business cards along with them. I just, basically the art was hung there. Now I would definitely put QR codes, put some business cards and things like that. Now I did that like 10 years ago, and I did these two pop-ups that were, one was in that same part of Wichita, and I had people come in and go, one lady walk up and go, "Yeah, I recognize your work. Didn't you have this one photo of this at the Masonic home?" And I said, yeah. So yeah, it was real interesting.
Mhm. Well, thank you for your input, guys. I appreciate that.
I'm about to go hit up my, I went with my wife to her eye doctor, and they've got some bare walls in there. Somebody's done some painting, but they're not signed, and I'm not sure they're these brightly colored paintings of wild animals that are wearing glasses.
Okay,
AI.
right.
No, I think these look like they were actual paintings. So I don't know if none of them were signed, and I don't know if it was a deal where maybe they bought the paintings in bulk and somebody added the eyeglasses to them, or if somebody just painted the whole thing. But I would think if somebody painted the whole thing, they would have signed it.
Probably,
Well, next time you go, ask them.
right. I need to go move my car, guys. I'm kind of in the way blocking somebody. So if you're back when I get back, okay. Otherwise, I'll see you another time.
Okay.
Maybe I'll just do this just in case.
Hey, Carol,
Larry,
do you want me to put your email on I send out a reminder every Tuesday morning.
oh, yeah, usually this time I'm at PT, but please do, because you never know, like today I had to get moved. So that'd be great.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. See you guys.
All right, bye.
My drone photo doesn't look too bad on here, but God, when I pull it up on the computer screen, it looks horrid.
I guess today it's slow because this is Ann Arbor week.
Probably. Well, Oscar doesn't have any power, and he was headed to Ann Arbor early.
And Barry too.
Yeah. Did Barry go home between shows? Didn't he have a show last weekend? I thought he was talking about going home between shows or something like that.
Oscar's back. Let's ask him.
What you want to ask?
Where did Barry do a show this past weekend, or did he go home?
And we lost Oscar. He's frozen in the ether world.
What?
Did Barry go home or did he do a show this past weekend? Breaking up.
You got
Breaking up is
Oh.
hard to do. Can't make out what you're saying.
Wait, you feel better now?
What? Oscar's gone. Ah,
I rewrote his I need to get him to send me a copy of his artist statement that he just did. I helped him write part of it, rewrite part of it.
I know. I saw he said he was going to have a new artist statement.
It's, you know, it's really nice, and if it works, I think it'll work well, but it's kind of a little bit out there. No, not out there. It's a little deep. Let me put it that way.
Deep.
See my nice patterns?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always wondered I would see you know, the wheat field, and on every corner there would be these little, I mean, areas, small areas where they would miss with the combine. And you know, you would see them and they're like very precise. And I finally figured it out because they don't drive combines anymore. They might drive one loop around the perimeter of the field. And once they've done that, they flip a switch and GPS takes over and the combine literally drives itself. And so that's what was happening, is when it cut the corners, it was cutting the corners a little tight and leaving that little bitty piece every time.
Right.
What's Barry doing, Oscar?
He was in Crystal, and now he's in Ann Arbor. And because we lost power in Chicago, so many places, my connections are being really bad. We were supposed to get power back by 3:30. It's not happening. The damage is worse than what they thought.
So how did he do at Krasel?
He did, I would say barely okay. So he said that the only sale that he did was from repeat business, nothing new. So no idea.
Hey,
He was so happy.
a sale's a
What else did you
sale.
Yeah, I know.
I'd be really happy if the guy, I gotta send him an email too. Be really happy if the attorney I talked to in that bought 3 pieces from me in St. Louis bought 3 more.
I know. Why he's not sending me to 90? I don't want to take 94.
I can't believe it. Gray is actually behaving today. I found him a spot where he's sitting and just sitting and chilling and behaving.
Well, that's good.
He sits on the left arm of my desk chair and my left leg, and he seems to be pretty happy as long as I give him some attention while he's sitting there. He decides that's good enough to keep him from being the Cheshire Cat.
So now I'm on my way to Ann Arbor. So I'm going to stay at home.
Did you set up tomorrow?
Yep.
How long does it take you to get to Detroit?
4 hours.
No, that's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like you go home at night.
You know, but you lose an hour because they're an hour ahead from us, and then coming back you get into an hour. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, from Paul Jaselska's house, you only got to drive about 5 minutes and you lose an hour.
What?
When I stay with Paul Jaselkas,
Yeah.
it's like he is Central Time, but if you go literally like 5 minutes from his house, you are in a different time zone.
Yeah. I know.
And driving all the way across Chicago to get to his house is not fun.
You know, that's what I'd rather pay the toll fees and go through 90. I don't like to take 94 anymore. It's just people are trying. He's saying there's too many 18-wheelers, and I don't feel safe driving in there.
And the way you go through different states up there, and it's just in that little corner around the lake is just weird to me. And I just go where Siri says, and I have no idea where the hell I am.
Yeah, because you go through Illinois to Indiana to Michigan or Ohio, depending which route you go. So, but it is, that's I'm hoping to do more shows in Michigan next year. I'm trying not to drive that far away, so we'll see how it goes. We see how it goes.
Well, the few times I've gone to Michigan, first time we went from Fort Wayne up. I drove to Fort Wayne, then we went from Fort Wayne up to somewhere in central Michigan and then up to Charlevoix and back. And then the other times I've gone up through Chicago and up to Paul's house or up to Kalamazoo, directly to Kalamazoo.
Right now, I will avoid Chicago at all costs.
With power out and street lights out, that's got to be a disaster in there.
It's really weird because it's like if you're in my street, the east side where I am doesn't have power and the west side has power. It's really, really bizarre. But if you walk around the neighborhood, there's a bunch of trees in the ground. Like today, a couple of neighbors, we came out and cut a tree to smaller sections so we can open the road. The city has not even shown up to clean the street yet. So there's a lot of debris. There was a car that got crushed with a tree. So I feel bad for her. She said, well, I need a new car anyhow, but if it's drivable, I can use it for now.
I think it was somewhere in Minnesota and it looked unreal to the point of, I don't know if this was real or not. It looked like it might have been real, but it was a golf course, and it showed the putting greens after this massive hailstorm that was out of that
Right.
same system, and it literally cratered the putting greens.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I don't mean just put little divots in them. I mean holes that
Oh.
were 2 or 3, 4 inches deep. It just was pockmarked the whole green.
Well, that's going to be expensive to repair.
I know here, if we get a bad hailstorm, you can always tell which way the wind came from, because that's the side of the houses will all have windows boarded up on the same side of the house.
I wasn't worried about the storm. I know we got some touchdowns in Midway, but I wasn't worried about it. But I didn't expect to lose power. That's the one thing that took me by surprise. So I might am putting a generator in the house. Well, I could have to put 2.
Do you have natural gas at your house, at your apartment?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put one in that runs on natural gas.
Most likely that's what I was doing because we were talking about, my sister and I were thinking about just putting a half a jackery just to plug in the refrigerators and things like that. But if the power outage goes for 2 or 3 days, that's not practical. So
I need to pull our generator out and fire it up. I have a set of I have extension cords, heavy duty extension cords that literally stay with my generator. So I can power the stuff we need to power, but we have a problem. Great. The water table where I live is very close to the surface. And if we lose power and it's been raining a lot, if I don't get power to our sump pump within, almost immediately, but within 10, 15 minutes, I have water backing up in our basement.
wow.
That sounds like fun.
No way. Well, I made it to Indiana. That was quick.
Yeah. It's not like you had to. It's like when I lived in Kansas City, to go anywhere, we lived like a quarter mile from the state line. So pretty much anytime we went anywhere, the grocery store and almost a lot of that stuff was in Missouri. It's like every day we went to the other state.
All right, guys.
Elvis needs to eat, right?
Elvis needs to eat.
All right. We'll see everybody.
And the
Couple weeks.
conversation is
next week.
slowly degrading.
Be safe, Oscar.
I
Yeah,
will.
have a good show at Ann Arbor.
Hey,
I will
Bye-bye.
try.
give Karen a hug for me.
Who?
Kozo.
Oh, I will.
All right. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.